feel like that looks good. Alright, so hey y'all, this is episode 3 of the spirit of intimacy. I've been thinking over the past 24 hours just about like community building and what community means to me, and there are so many like different ideas that have been popping up, so I'm like, sorry, my dimple seems extra big on this side today. But there's been a lot of things that have just been coming up, and I'm truly super grateful to be able to revisit this book with you. So I'm a little tired, I'm pretty exhausted. Today we were celebrating my son's birthday because his actual birthday, he was on like a little mini vacay during break, and today he was back, so it's been like laughing and dance parties and unicorn cake like all day. There are like crumbs everywhere, like literally everywhere. I don't understand how we got so many crumbs everywhere, but in any case, it was a really good day, and I'm super, I don't know, I'm just really grateful at how awesome it turned out, so that's a plus. If you celebrate Christmas, I hope your Christmas went well. And yeah, that's about it. I don't have anything super big right now. Sorry, I don't normally eat a lot of. I had the hugest slice of cake. Like, he got to slice all the cake up. So we had like these giant slices, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna be cool. I mean, I kind of just really wanted to eat a gigantic slice of cake, but I ate way too much, and now I'm feeling all like dehydrated and like crampy. So in any case, let's go ahead and get started on chapter 4. All right, so chapter 4 is entitled Ritual, the Call to Spirit. Sorry, I've been noticing like when I'm a little bit flared, how like uneven my muscles are in my face. Maybe I should do like one of those. It's like my smile tilts more when I'm getting flary from like sugar or processed food or whatever. But ritual, the call to spirit. I'm gonna try and stay focused today. The call to spirit. It's important in any relationship to do ritual. in order to keep peace, to ground ourselves, and to create better communication. There are rituals that help couples to reaffirm their purpose, to give their gifts to the community, and to address difficulties in the lives of others so that they are not just wrapped up in their own things. What is a ritual? A ritual is a ceremony in which we call in spirit to come and be the driver, the overseer of our activities. The elements of ritual allow us to connect with the self, the community, and the natural forces around us. In ritual, we call in spirit to show us obstacles that we cannot see because of our limitations as human beings. Rituals help us to remove blocks standing between us and our true spirit and other spirits. In the village, everybody is addicted to ritual. There, people experience intimacy not just with their partners, but with the rest of the village at all times, simply because of the repeated involvement with ritual. There is such a high from this that most conversations are about the ritual that just ended or about the need for the next one. Maybe that's why they don't have television. They need us, They need to be constantly involved in ritual because it's like an energy that gives a high that lasts perhaps 3 or 4 days. And as soon as they start coming down, everybody is concerned. They need the high again. I understand that. It's like, I can't remember if it was at the beginning of this book or during the last series when I was comparing, talking about that energy. I think it was the We Are Borg conversation. Like sports, you know? I mean, I get why people are addicted to sports and they kind of hang in there for the whole season and, you know, rooting for the home team or whatever. It really is a high, connecting to the energy of others and connecting to the energy of spirit or the earth is very addicting. I feel like we crave it, and that makes complete sense to me. You don't do a ritual just for the sake of doing a ritual. Every ritual must have a very specific purpose, a clearly stated intention. It must have something to resolve. There are personal rituals, community rituals, maintenance rituals, and radical rituals. Radical rituals are done. Radical rituals. Say that 5 times fast, right? Radical rituals are done to disassociate someone from a state of profound turmoil or alienation and reunite him with his spirit. They are done by a community for an individual or individuals. It is then necessary to do regular maintenance rituals in order for the effects of the ritual to continue. Take, for instance, a person who is very disconnected from himself, from his spirit. He doesn't need a maintenance ritual. He needs something radical to end that disconnection and bring the spirit back into himself so that he can start to be alive again. In such a ritual, the community must be there because a person becomes so vulnerable that he needs a contained, sacred space held by other people who will make sure he doesn't hurt himself. And also, the community must be there to welcome him back. Even though a person experiences a radical ritual, if he doesn't have an appropriate welcoming back, his psyche will take it as meaning that he did not do it right. He may have to go back and do it again. The psyche won't know the ritual has been successful without a community there to acknowledge that it is so. So interesting. Every time you want to move into a ritual, you need to recognize that there's a whole line of ancestors behind you. There's a whole spirit world around you. There is the animal world, the ground world, the trees, and so forth. If you have a way of saying to these forces, come and be with us in such a way that we can feel and do such and such, then you're already in ritual. Next, you must state your purpose, being quite specific about your needs or goals. Spirits are drawn to a place of activity, particularly activity that interests them and demands their involvement. All you need to do from then on is to go deep into your heart and listen to the rhythm of it. There is a language spoken to you by the beings you have called into your circle. The problem is, we usually don't listen enough, and therefore we don't hear it. Usually, if you ask one spirit to come, it will not come alone. It gathers its friends, its relatives, friends of its friends, and so on. And all these spirits will come to you. You don't need a PhD or to suffer pain and contortions in order to attract them. All you really need is the sincerity of your heart and a willing ear. In the West, people tend to standardize everything. So if you describe one ritual, people think it applies to all situations, even though every case is different. People will follow the same formula. In ritual, that doesn't work. A ritual has to be made specific to the people who are involved in it. And if you try to standardize things, you actually take away the spirit of the people and try to force something false into the situation. That actually makes a lot of sense to me. There are a lot of different spirituality accounts, or even I like to study different faiths and the old ways. Essentially, I'm absolutely obsessed with just different ways of worship, and a lot of practitioners of things like paganism or hoodoo, things like that, will always tell you or say, people want to come to them for standardized kind of formulaic solutions to problems. And that's not necessarily the case. Following your intuition, following what your ancestors did, because it's 100% not standardized, is what gives you your ritual or your reverence or your spell work power, right? I wholly believe that every practice essentially leads whomever to the same end point, if that makes sense. When you really dig in deep to the Bible and Christianity, or the Quran, or the Bhagavad Gita, it's bare bones. It's the same. It's the same as ATRs, or just all of it comes down to the same thing. Faith in God, or gods, if it's polytheistic, following what practices your bloodline has strengthened, right? Because there's power in numbers, and just being the best, most altruistic person you can be. I mean, it's a little wild that literally, like, humans have fought wars over whose faith is the bestest. But in actuality, that's just a means of control. Every faith has some type of divination, whether that's prophets or cowrie shells or runes. Every faith has a way to honor yourself, honor your family and friends, and honor the world around you. Like, even like when I say that I study different faiths, it's really kind of big to me. Like, even something like, I know it's been very demonized, but even something like Satanism, it still follows that same structure. It's so wild. Like, I feel like personally the universe doesn't fucking care. Like, doesn't care what label you put on it, who you worship. It just cares that you're being good to your fellow man, being altruistic, and honoring yourself in the earth. So, that's pretty, I don't know, pretty rad. Everything is kind of tailored to yourself, and you can't really use something that someone else does. You can't expect lavender to mean the same thing for everyone, because it doesn't, based on the energy that your family put into that. It's all energy. And in essence, whatever you're doing, if you do it with a pure and open heart and without the intention of hurting others, I mean, can you hurt others? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But, like, if you're coming at your faith with a 100% open heart, I don't know. To me, it truly doesn't matter what path you get there. It's funny, for all intents and purposes, like, I found my way back to spirituality through atheism, which is kind of crazy, right? Like, who would think? But it's like, I grew up Christian, Catholic, right? Doing the Catholic school and everything like that, and was turned off by religious folk, I guess. A lot of people in many of the churches that I was in growing up just kind of did it for checking off a box, if that makes sense. And then in my mind, I was like, man, these Catholics, they fucking suck, right? And then I began going to a Baptist church, because always in my life, I've always felt the call to connect with a higher power, connect with the earth, connect with community and those around me. It's a need that it's hard for me to ignore, and it always brings me back. So I started going to a Baptist church with a friend of mine, and that struck me. That felt fantastic. So, going to church there, going to Bible study and all of that was great. And then the more I got to know people in the church, the more those same things that turned me off of Catholicism, or the Catholic Church, I guess I should say, kept popping up, right? I love Catholic iconography and, you know, the churches and the art, and even just, I don't know, there's something so painfully poetic about all of it. It's amazing. And then in the Baptist church, there's like the liveliness and the song and the passion there is just mind-blowing. I mean, talk about getting caught up in a wave. It's fantastic. But the closer I got to all the church folk and the masks started kind of dropping, and I realized that it was some of the same hypocrisy that really turned me off from Catholicism. And there was one of the girls that she was young, not super young. I think she was only 17 or 18, but she got pregnant without being partnered, right? You know how it goes. We all know how this works. But either before she would get there, when everyone was kind of organizing, my friend's family was very involved in this church. So, we were there early. We would end up staying late, talking to everyone, kind of hanging out in the parking lot, whatever. They were slamming this girl, all of them, every single one of them. Her mother was involved in the church. Her brother was having some issues, troubled kid. And, there she was with this baby, or pregnant, and they were just ripping her to shreds. And I remember thinking, as someone that was about the same age, holy shit, what are they saying about me or about these other people when they're not around? That's everyone put on a good show, but that is not Christ-like. That is completely the opposite. I mean, if you want to talk about, Jesus, for real in the Bible, Jesus was a badass. He wasn't about that. He used to hang out with the diseased and the whores and the cripples and the wayward people. That's not, and for you to sit there and be like, I am so godly, I'm holier than thou, won't he do it? No, what the fuck are you doing? Talking shit about this poor woman instead of getting her gift cards to help take care of her baby because she doesn't have a partner there to help her. Why aren't you praying for her to have a safe pregnancy instead of talking crap about her as soon as she gets out of earshot? And I know that I'm not the only person that's ever really looked at the hypocrisy of the church and it hasn't made sense. I don't know, it reminds me of when I was, I think I was in 4th grade when you start doing book reports. And we had to do book reports on, it might have been 5th grade, but we had to do book reports on an autobiography, right? And collect different sources, etc. And I did mine on Jimi Hendrix. It's so weird how obsessed I was with the Pacific Northwest before I even lived here. It's all of the things out here, I was completely obsessed with the culture, and maybe it was foreshadowing in my story. But in any case, that's one of the things that turned Jimmy away from the church. And, he didn't have a great situation, you know, and was just some kid trying to find his place in life. And he goes to church, and they literally turned him away, laughed him out of the church because his clothes weren't as nice as they needed to be for a Sunday service. His clothes weren't nice enough for him to come in and find community and solace in a supposed house of God. Like, how disgusting is that? And, you know, it's so funny to really think about a lot of the hypocrisy and how many lives could have been saved throughout, I want to say throughout time, since, you know, religions and churches have been established. If we were to kind of drop that holier than thou facade in a lot of those places, I mean, how many people would have been able to stay away from drugs or alcoholism, would have been able to find help from abusive parents or abusive marriages, torn apart homes, if they were more accepted in houses of worship? Like, the pain that some of us carry inside is overwhelming. The scars on the heart of people who have grown up the children of alcoholics or narcissists, perfectionists even, drug addicts, people who have grown up without parents, you know? We all need something. And with our separate little boxes and our separate little houses, I've tried it time after time again to go back to the church and find a place that doesn't feel like I am being judgmentally perceived or others. And I know people are people, they're not going to be perfect, but when the entire congregation is literally pressing down on you, you can feel that, you know? And I know that a lot of people don't like to admit it, but us, the fucked up ones, you know? We're some of the most sensitive people. We're some of the ones that need God the most, the ones that don't have support. And it's just, I get very passionate about inclusivity and ganging up on people, kicking people when they're down, because it's not fair and it's hateful. And I know everybody's a little bit broken inside. You know, we've all got our wounds from not having as tight-knit of a community as we need. But I always have a place in my heart for the underdog, because I know what that feels like, you know? And I don't feel like anyone deserves to be bullied or ganged up on or talked shit about. It's just not fair. makes me want to flip over a table. But in any case, I got off the rails there. But yeah, after, Baptist church, and then thinking, well, maybe I'm agnostic, because I know that there's something there. There's some spark there that runs through all of us, that connects all of us. Like, there has to be something. And then kind of delving deeper into that, I actually had a roommate that was raised atheist. I had never met anyone that was raised atheist before. And why is the book not, I've literally read this book so many times, but it was a book about atheistic ideology, and I said, fuck, that makes sense. And, I wasn't one of those super nihilistic, like, jerk-ass atheists. Maybe I was sometimes. But, I carried that around with me for a really long time until I started seeing magic in all of these different little places, especially with the births of my kids. But before that, there was one near-death experience and one what is that? Am I supposed to stop talking about this? Was that a sign? But what is that? What the fuck is that sound? Hold on. What is that? I don't 100% know what that sound was. That's so strange. Like, nothing fell over. Everything looks the same. My candles are still, like, lit. There's no, like, it wasn't like a rat sound. It was like I don't know. Maybe I'll play it back here later when I look at the live. But yeah, there were a couple of experiences that happened that proved to me, in my mind, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that there is a higher power. Like, God is real. Like, 100% real. And that kind of drew me slowly out of I really want to know what that was. Like, it wasn't inside the fridge. It was like outside of the fridge. The sound wasn't metal, wasn't glass. My journals are still standing up. My recipe books are still standing up. What the fuck was that sound? It wasn't my neighbors knocking. Ghost. JK. But that kind of slowly drew me out of that that place of atheism. And then I do a lot of like journaling after meditation and free writing. And I had this light bulb moment. I'll see if I can find it in one of the journals a little later, because it was really like groundbreaking to me. And it was essentially like, if nothing is God, then everything is God. I know, super chicken and the egg. It, very much reminds me of that Buddhism book, Zen Mind, A Beginner's Mind. That's another really good one. I think I may actually read that one after The Spirit of Intimacy. But, the interdependence of everything, like, if all answers are correct, right, then no answer is technically correct. It's the same thing. And it's like, I know it sounds like semantics, but if there is no such thing as God, but humans create things, then humans are essentially God. And if humans are God, then, even creating like a table or AI or something is also God, right? Because God lives in everything that God creates. If there is no God, then humans are God. Therefore, everything humans create are God. Everything that humans witness are God, right? But if God is in all things, then God is truly everything. And God is real. The universe truly is like these, like we're all just little finger puppets. Of the universe experiencing itself, right? I feel like the human brain is so small, is so microscopic compared to the universe, that even the concept of God is something that we truly cannot fully grasp. The concept of something like polytheism, monotheism, and nature worship all existing in the same time is just completely inconceivable to some people. I mean, even the concept of time being a human construct is impossible to think about, but it is. The idea of infinity as a concept is mind-boggling when you really, really think about what that means. The fact that like energy cannot be destroyed. It has to be dispersed. is mind-boggling. Whether it's, energy in a laboratory sense, and like that whole particle accelerator, blah, 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 Big Bang Theory, go on forever type of sense, or if you're thinking about energy in the sense of like entities, right? Like, there are some people who are like, this person put a hex on me, yada, yada, yada. This person cursed me, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, they did, but where did that energy come from? It had to be created somewhere and then given to you, and you can't just poof make that disappear. Like, that has to go somewhere. I don't know. I feel like when you think about things so deeply, everything is an existential crisis waiting to happen, right? Ooh, you know what I've kind of been obsessed with is those stories about people who get into like really bad like car accidents or like life or death situations, and they have a person that they clearly remember. Like, remember what they were wearing, remember everything about this person that came to their aid or came to their rescue and either pulled them out of the car or unbuckled their seatbelt when they were upside down. Ooh, I'm getting chills. Or, told them like, hey, don't panic. Like, oh, your head's bleeding. You need to hold still. I'm going to stay with you until the ambulance comes. And then the first responders come and they're like, nope, you were here by yourself. The top of your head is, was laying next to the car. There was not a person. There was nobody. It was completely dark. There were no cars outside. It's literally like they're in between the spirit world and this human world, and time is 100% compressed so that they're able to have these full-on conversations with this person or this energy that was only visible to them when they were on the brink of death. I'm obsessed with it. It's absolutely amazing. What was that? There was a Ryan Gosling. Was it Ryan Gosling? Probably was Ryan Gosling's fine ass. But there's that movie, Stay? Was it called Stay? I think it was called Stay. Where this person lived a whole life in that moment that they were about to die. I am all the way out in left field right now. I am all the way out in left field. I love it though. It's like really thinking about some of the uncanny things that happen within our human life. Like, if you truly think about them with an eye of openness, even if you look at them with an eye of skepticism, like, if you've ever almost died and not like, oh, it was a close call, or oh, I thought I was gonna die. No, like when you're in that place and your body is like shutting down and you're in that space where like every feeling is an entire paragraph, like that last feeling is an entire paragraph, is an entire lifetime, like understanding an entire explanation of an entire life in just one fucking moment. God exists. And we are God, and cats are God, and everything else in the entire world is God. It's raining so hard right now. It sounds beautiful. I truly just want to go outside and hang out in the rain for a little bit. I hope it's still raining when I'm almost done. Damn, that went into left field. If y'all ever think about crazy existentialist things or have had near-death experiences or have experienced any of the type of phenomena that kind of really prove that we are one drop in the ocean, or even one atom, one little bit of a drop in the entire ocean, please reach out to me. Talking, ghost experiences, near-death experiences, extraterrestrial, that word is so silly, but extraterrestrial experiences, spiritual experiences, raptures, all of that. Like, I want to hear about it. Those are my favorite things in life because every story is different, but it all proves the same thing. Boom. In any case, where was I? Okay. We think that someone must bring a secret book of ritual recipes so that if we have a toothache, we go to page 129, read paragraph 2, and that will take care of it. When in fact, we ourselves are page 129, paragraph 2. So I'm saying, trust in yourself, believe in your ability to hear, just say, I know these things exist somewhere in me. Side note, I know, another side note, but one of the coolest things I've actually heard is Neil Brennan talking about, Neil Brennan, Dave Chappelle show, okay, and comedian. His podcast Blocks is absolutely fantastic. Recommend 100%. But he had an ayahuasca experience, and he, in this experience, was given the information or came to the realization that the gods of the earth are different than the universal source, which I found absolutely fascinating. Look up Neil Brennan's ayahuasca experience, or one of his ayahuasca experiences. Cannot 100% be able to recall everything and even do it justice, but super cool to hear about, and kind of plays off of that polytheism, monotheism, universal intelligence vein. I remember growing up how one of my grandmothers used to involve us in ritual. She would create situations where we would have to come up with an appropriate ritual. She would never interfere with our creativity. All she would do was make sure that we were making progress. Just like a mother with a baby learning to walk, she would guide us a little, and when we fell, she would give us encouragement and strength to keep on trying. With any ritual, you start by preparing the sacred space and constructing a shrine. Then call in spirit with an invocation. It has to start with the setting of the intention and with a group of committed people who want the greatest good to happen. The people involved in a ritual are the only ones who can determine exactly what elements are needed. Rituals are not alike. They each have their own flavor. It would be best to look at each situation with care, then determine the elements that are needed. The fun comes when everybody adds an ingredient here and there. In this way, a ritual is like a meal where everybody brings an ingredient. Some people bring onions, some people bring tomatoes, some people bring lettuce or celery or pepper or chili, and so on. After gathering all the elements, then you look to see which ingredients work best. That would actually be a really fun party. Like a Top Chef party or whatever that is, where they get the basket, have everyone bring different ingredients, and you have to make crazy meals. A ritual begins when you define a ritual space. You can delineate a ritual space with ash, leaves, or stones, or sometimes just by building a shrine. Select a place where you can build a shrine and light candles. Take ash and make a circle as big as you think it needs to be. It could be a small circle for 2 people to sit in and communicate for conflict resolution, or a big space to include many people. The ash can be from any burnt wood, preferably free of nails or any kind of chemical. Because ash is connected to fire, it provides protection. It helps when calling in the spirits and helps people connect. It prevents negative energies from creeping in while you're in ritual. Your shrine should be made of items that symbolize something good for you and relate to the purpose of the ritual. It should be made beautiful. You could use such things as candles, water, flowers, textiles, masks, or pictures. In a ritual done for a relationship, it is sometimes useful to set up a couple shrine and a personal shrine. A couple shrine will have elements contributed by both people, and the personal shrine will be designated by the individual. In the Dagara tribe, we would use colors such as blue, black, red, yellow, green, and white for the shrine. These colors represent, respectively, water, fire, earth, nature, and mineral. Dagara people don't distinguish between blue and black. We would use rocks to represent the mineral kingdom, leaves for the nature kingdom. The skull in relationship ritual represents death and memory. Green leaves represent life. We would bring in water to represent peace, the state of peace we would like to have in our life. Soil would symbolize nurturing, groundedness, a sense of identity, and support. Fire would be represented by ash, blood, something red to symbolize our connection to the ancestors. Bones and rocks mean communication and our ability to remember. Depending on our needs, one or more of these elements would be used in a ritual. So if it's a ritual for peace, for example, you can use blue or black candles, some water, and other items that say peace to you. If the ritual is for nurturing or groundedness or working on the identity of a relationship, you would use yellow candles and soil. If you're working on communication, on making sure that you interpret correctly the signs you receive from your partner, you choose a white candle, rocks, and bones. If you are working on connecting with the spirit of the ancestors or keeping the spiritual connection in your relationship, you would use red candles. Fire, brings warmth, action, compassion. It helps a couple to dream together. But I tell people to be sure that their intention is set absolutely right and clear for the use of red, because the velocity of fire can quickly denigrate into war. Then if you're looking for magic to help you go through major changes, or let's say a couple is starting to put on masks before the community, acting insincerely and presenting their false side, green candles and fabrics are used along with masks, which represent the great mystery and anything else that reminds one of nature. These elements of ritual are to be taken simply as a source of inspiration, particularly for those who do not have a background in ritual. Now that you have your space delineated, your shrine ready, and the purpose of the ritual determined and clearly expressed to the spirits and ancestors, you can help the person for whom the ritual is designed. You might say that now the ritual starts, but in fact, the ritual started when people first gathered to figure things out and began, with their guidance of spirit, to prepare the ritual space. We should never exclude children from ritual. When children are present, the most simple and vibrant rituals become possible. If they are, whatever you do wrong is right. For some reason, they are, by their own nature, naturally ritualistic. Even if it means just to get them together, call on the spirits, state your purpose, and have a procession where they lead and you follow. That's all right, because the amount of sincerity and purity that is in front of you will heal all kinds of dirt or criticism or negativity that you may carry. It's that powerful. Not everything in ritual from Africa can work here, like the idea of sacrifice. Sacrificing a chicken, for instance, but people here are familiar with offerings. Take an offering to the sea, take an offering to the mountain or to a field. It is very helpful periodically to give something away on behalf of your intimate life, an offering of gratitude to spirit, or as a giveaway of negativity to cleanse your relationship. People have a tendency to stay away from emotion, so we disconnect ourselves from what is happening and it becomes superficial. In ritual, if tears are coming, it's okay for tears to be there. If anger is coming, it's important that anger comes out. In fact, anger carries in it a healing energy. Only when we let it overtake our being and keep it prisoner does it become destructive. The whole concept of the intimate is primarily derived from ritual. Outside of ritual, nothing can be truly intimate, which is why in the village, every emotion is ritualistically understood. So human relationships, when they begin to deepen, enter into the canal of ritual. One's closest relationships are constantly happening as ritual. So anything close, anything intimate is impossible without a ritual space. Anything that brings people to express to one another something other than normal day-to-day life touches on the spiritual world, on the ancestral world, and therefore is a ritual event. To learn how to become familiar with the intimate is to go to the school of ritual again, because if you know how to dwell in ritual, you are likely to handle your relationship better than a person who doesn't know how. I don't know how to prove that, but I can't help but see in the screaming and yelling of a couple's conflict resolution ritual the renewal of a contract of intimacy. It is as if somehow, without this ritual, another 5 days of relationship are not possible. It also means that here, there are people who are not... Sorry, my head is somewhere else right now. Ooh. It also means that here, there are people who are not taking the relationship for granted. If people understood the connection between intimacy and spirit, there would be a different approach to how they deal with the whole idea of relationships. And they would begin to understand that ritual can help heal the anger and frustration that can arise between partners. In a ritual space, spirit helps to take care of those issues. It's not a quick fix. One ritual and everything is going to be perfect. Conflicts are usually deeply rooted in the psyche, and it's really hard for people to separate themselves from them. But when one starts to leave the control to spirit and to invite spirit through ritual, it's very easy for spirit to help heal those wounds. Most of the relationships that I observe in this culture begin somewhere at the top of the hill. The top of the hill has this nice feeling of being in love. There's all this difficulty about dating. Oh, it's so frustrating. You have to go out. You're scared that it won't work out, that something will collapse. But eventually, everything works and it looks like paradise. This is a relationship at the top of the hill. Now, since a relationship must grow and must be constantly in motion, and it's already at the top, where's it gonna go? It is very hard to figure out a way to continue circling around the top. So more often than not, it's going to go down. In a context in which the community supports the relationship between two people, that relationship starts at the bottom of the hill. It is pushed by the community and by spirit with the support of ritual gradually toward the top, so that when the two people arrive at the top, they arrive there with an entire community. What is the fate of a relationship in the absence of community and in the absence of ritual? I think it is a pretty endangered entity. This is why those of us who are in an intimate relationship must begin to approach it as something sacred that must be dealt with in a ritual context. How would that happen? I think the ability of two people to discover each other must first be honored with a ritual thanksgiving to spirit. Because it is through spirit the two people manage to meet. And so, these two people must find a way to ritualize their encounter and give thanks to the very spirit that has brought them together. This is something that their imagination and the love that they have for each other can help them do. The next thing is to continuously return the relationship itself to the very giver of that relationship. The couple is the container, but the spirit is the one whose blessing hand injects life and growth into their relationship. Whenever conflict arises, that conflict must be seen primarily as a warning sent by spirit of a deep instability or a deviation from the path drawn by spirit for the relationship. So, again, it is to spirit that the people in conflict must go through ritual in order to realize that the conflict is something bigger than both of them put together. Maybe by humbly giving that problem into the hands of spirit, lightly, suppose that is light, maybe shed on how to begin resolving it. Emotion is very hard to resolve intellectually. That's because the mind doesn't know how to feel. Its logic cannot fulfill the heart's desire. And this is why it's so important to realize how ritual, the feeling within ritual, can be a helpful tool in resolving crises that arise in a relationship. What I am trying to say here is that in a lot of ways, it's a gift from spirit that we are able to notice each other, to care for each other. But that gift cannot be taken for granted. every gift must be maintained and nurtured. Even if we don't know how to nurture that gift, at least we must notify the giving source of our inability to take care of the gift. Spirits love to intervene in our affairs, but they don't do it against our will. They are waiting over there for us to give them a job to do. We always talk about high unemployment in this world. Just think about the other world. And instantly I'm reminded of Beetlejuice. And so these are little odd jobs that we can throw here and there to the waiting spirits, things for them to do for us. Maybe it is through doing these things that we will travel our blind way back to the kind of community that will naturally hold us together. We cannot begin by figuring out in our brains exactly how a ritual will work before we get into it. We have to start by telling Spirit that we recognize we don't know. There's nothing wrong with not knowing. There's something wrong in not saying you don't know. Actually, spirits love to hear that you don't know, because they do. And they will take it as an invitation to do what they have to do. And so, I think that the best way, or the way still left for us, to care for our relationships is by reaching out to Spirit through ritual. I think that most of you know what I mean by that. Every time you speak from the heart, invoking or telling a being from the other world that something is going on in this world, you are in ritual. You are doing something here that includes others who don't have flesh and bones like you do. We are the eyes of the ancestors in this world. When we notice that something is not right in our relationships, it is our responsibility to notify the ancestors. But if we keep seeing things that are not right and we continue to struggle with them, perhaps because we think that we are not creative enough, or do not deserve to be helped, or do not know how to ask for help, then we run the risk of wasting our time on things that are the business of our allies in the other world. In the meantime, our real purpose is left waiting. This book excites me so much. Like, it lights a fire in my it lights a fire under me. I love this book. It is so amazing. But that is the end of chapter 4 there. I am really going off on a lot of tangents while reading this, but chapter 5, Born to a Purpose, is where I am getting started tomorrow. Let's say tomorrow night at 8:45, 9 is what I'm shooting for. So, The Spirit of Intimacy, an amazing book. If you don't have a copy, pick up a copy and please read it on your own. Really dig in, make your notes. It's just fantastic. And it's a beautiful perspective on how to cultivate intimacy in your life throughout interpersonal relationships. Yeah, that's all I've got for you tonight. I love you. Thank you so much for letting me read you a bedtime story. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble. If you have any amazing spiritual or spiritually adjacent stories, reach out. I love it. Come on live with me. It'll be super fun. But in any case, I love you. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope your holiday was great. If you celebrate, good night.